Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tell It Like It Is radio podcast and also my other channel on YouTube, as well as my podcast on Spreaker.com, You Minding Your Own Business radio podcast. Y'all know who I am by now. I appreciate y'all for joining me for this episode. If you guys like the commentary, and you would like to hear more, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications of my videos. Now, today we're going to have this conversation about the recession and the fact that how people individually are going to deal with the fact of going through a recession, because recovery is not just drugs and alcohol or codependency or sex addiction or some of the things I've named. It also can be financial recovery. And today we're going to be talking about financial recovery and how to overcome these financial burdens that we're dealing with. My podcast is also on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Amazon, Cashbox, and multiple other podcasts as well. But a little bit about me: I'm a certified recovery life coach. It's all about helping people on their paths, their journeys, and their purpose to a new and better you through self discovery. Now, I help people to deal with multiple facets of recovery, and this one is no different. When it comes to recovery and when it comes to trying to be the best version of yourself, it's not just your overall health and wellness. It's not just relationships. It's not just about, the love and liking and appreciating and valuing and wanting and needing and being a part of something and being validated, to be approved of, to be accepted, somebody knowing your worth, to be proving something to people and being accepted, and then being Build-A-Bears, Captain Save-A-Ho, seat fillers, and people pleasers as well. It's more to it than just that, because you also have to deal with financial recovery. Now, financial recovery is a little bit different, because financial recovery doesn't have anything to do with any type of emotional connections. It's all about you losing your job. It's all about not making enough money to pay your bills. It's about not being able to function and being able to figure out how to go about, making enough money to take care of your kids, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. It's to the point that people can't even afford a house right now. People can't even afford to, go grocery shopping. People can't even afford to buy their personal items because the recession is so high right now. So I really want to talk about that. I do. I want to talk about that because it is something we definitely, absolutely need to talk about, because those things are very important. Now, there are millions of people right now losing their jobs in some of the most prominent places that you would never think that would be letting people go. Now, there's a number of reasons why this is happening. But the main number one reason that I've come up with is because they want people to work these lower income jobs. And because you have a lot of rich and wealthy people that don't want to go to college, that don't really want to work, they're trying to put their people in those positions and putting the lower class in lower positions, which is never really, honestly, a good thing. So you have a lot of people that are in tech that's being laid off. You got people that are being laid off at um, Twitter, laid off a bunch of people. You had what was the last place? I forgot the name of that company, but there were a lot of people that got laid off. Amazon, Google, all of these major companies have been letting people go, but at the same time putting up hiring signs. That's the crazy part about it. They'll let people go and then turn around and put a hiring sign up a month later, trying to get people to work for their companies. So it's even more bizarre. I've never understood that. How you gonna let a whole bunch of people go and then turn around and try to hire people? I have never understood that. You got people that can't even afford to get a one bedroom apartment at this point. They can't even afford to even get an apartment. That's what's even more crazier. You got people that can't even buy furniture because their credit is so bad. You got people now that got to use credit cards for everything, including paying their bills and then paying the money back. You got people that can't even go on vacation and they got to use a firm and an uplift to be able to go on vacation. You got people now that can't even afford to go to the doctor because it's gotten expensive when it comes to insurance. When you go to the grocery store, it used to be you could buy like 150 items for $150. Now you can't even buy 25 items and it not be over $100. So you have all of this stuff going on. And then not only that, we got to deal with food that is not exactly healthy for us, which makes it even worse. And then you have Donald Trump that wants to make the rich and the wealthier rich and wealthier and the poor even more poor. You got people that are coming out asking people to give them money to be able to go and build their churches. Like poor people got money. It's like you're trying to get money out of something. It's like saying you're trying to get lemon juice out of a lemon that has absolutely no more juice in there at all. But yet you want to keep trying to get lemon juice out of it. That part is what doesn't make sense to me. Why in the world would you try to get something a lemon out of a lemon? There is no one lemon. So it's sad about what's going on as far as the recession. And this recession is really hitting everybody. And I mean literally everybody. People are losing their jobs left and right. People are literally trying to get out of the situation. And there even got people on here talking about the fact that the stock market is getting ready to crash. That basically people can't get a job. Um, People saying that the economy does not look like it's in a recession. Well, the reason why it don't look like it's in a recession because everybody's using credit cards. You take away the credit cards and people had to actually use their own income, you'll see the fact that we're in a recession. The only thing that's saving people is credit cards. But people are more so in debt than they've ever been before. You got people who don't want to go in the office, that do not want to work in the office, and they want to work from home. You have a lot of people that basically, if you got a home job, you better keep it because it's going to be hard for you to find a job work from home because they're trying to pull everybody back in the office. The problem is you have people that like their employees and want to keep their employees. Some of them have found better employees in different states than the ones they live in. It's like when people go to Georgia, everybody talking about, well, Georgia's the place to be. Well, guess what? Georgia is also the place where a lot of people don't want to work either. So, like I said, this recession is exactly what it is, and it is bad, and it is absolutely terrible. So, at the end of the day, everybody want to blame Biden for what's going on, and yet and still, it's not Biden's fault that is going on. But if you ask all of these rich and wealthy people, nah, we ain't in a recession. We are in a recession because number one, most people are not getting paid over $20 an hour. Most people are not even getting paid $25 an hour. It's very few people that are actually getting paid what they're worth, and they're actually getting paid the money that they are supposed to get. There's a lot of people that just are not making money at all the way they used to. So you got a lot of people that are trying to make it seem like we are not in a recession. We are too in a recession. So I'm trying to find some videos now about the 2025 predictions. But like I said, you got more people now than ever before. Okay, I'm gonna use this one. I'm gonna mute it for a second. So you got people right now that don't even want to have kids, don't want to get married. You got people that are living in RVs, living in their vans. You got people that are living. I'm telling y'all, it's a lot going on that this government don't want to talk about. There are more people living in RVs and living in vans than ever before. You got people living in their cars. You got people that are right now going and getting campers and living in their campers. You got people that right now, that is the way they're living. They go in there, they take a shower, and then they go to Planet Fitness. They'll go and take a shower, and then they'll go to work. So you have all of these people that are living in campers that right now could be at the brink of being homeless. Man, it is so many people that live in a nomad lifestyle that's on social media that do way better than people that's just on social media in general. And they're doing really, really, really well. So I'm gonna share my screen and show y'all this video of them talking about the recession and about what's going on as far as the recession is concerned. Every video I'm using is for educational purposes only. So I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to come back periodically if if something is where I need to say something. So bear with me a second. I'm going to share my screen. And this is for 2025. Now, mind you, this video is for 2025 as far as the predictions when it comes to the economy and what's going to happen. But I'm telling y'all, the only thing that is keeping things afloat is credit cards. But what will happen if you get rid of credit cards? If you get rid of credit cards, you'll see exactly how broke this country is. But see, people are so afraid to stop using credit cards. How you think all these people going to concerts? Credit cards. But yet the credit cards are not being paid back. So these people are now in debt. So people's credits are completely messed up because number one, they're getting stuff and not paying for it. And now you got so many people that are sitting in debt. It's not even funny. So we're going to watch this video about 2025 and the predictions when it comes to the recession. And we're going to see how this is going to play out. So I'm going to take myself out and I'll be back in a minute.
There was a study published in 2020 that analysed Los Angeles County's records of unclaimed deaths. It found a significant relationship between economic hardship and the rates of unclaimed bodies. That between 1976 and 2013, high unemployment at the county level was strongly correlated with fewer family members collecting their deceased relatives. And if you graph the unclaimed body rates with US recessions, there's also a connection. Despite the limited data set, it's an interesting insight into a more widely known phenomenon called the Unclaimed Corpse Index, an unofficial economic indicator that suggests dead bodies can be used to predict stock market crashes. It sent me down a rabbit hole where I found all kinds of bizarre recession predictors, from lipstick to exotic dancers, and even mosquito bites, as well as one indicator that's never been wrong. And it's saying that in 2024, we're on the cusp of the next recession. But first, let's go back to the morgue. The Wayne County morgue in Detroit, to be specific. In 2009, CNN reported that the number of unclaimed bodies at the morgue was at a record high, tripling since 2000. Albert Samuels, the chief investigator, said he's never seen anything like it in his 13 years on the job. That some people don't come forward even though they know their people are there. One Detroit couple had visited Wayne County to identify their aunt, but didn't have the $695 needed to cremate her. This report was done during the second year of the global financial crisis, which brought with it the worst stock market crash in almost a century. The The correlation between the rate of unclaimed bodies and stock market crashes works because it's essentially just a slice of the broader correlation between consumer spending and economic downturns. Recessions can be caused by a wide array of things, but they all result in a meaningful and persistent decline in spending. Businesses make less money and lay off workers to cut costs, and when a higher number of people are unemployed, they have even less money to spend. Consumer spending can be split into two categories: essential spending and discretionary spending. Renting a home, paying your electricity bill, and putting food on the table are all essential expenditures. Okay, eating food like that isn't essential, but you get what I mean. But we also spend a lot of money on things we don't actually need if push came to shove. So it's in that discretionary category that we can find some pretty bizarre indicators that the economy is in the early stages of a downturn. What if there was a group of people who are better trend forecasters than anyone in the finance industry?
Now, this news is not something that people in the stripping industry can grind their way out of. The economy has drastically impacted their business.
Funnily enough, sex workers might actually be pretty good at predicting a downturn in the economy. I figured the best way to find out would be to take my camera and microphone down to my local club. Just kidding. In 2022, a stripper who goes on Twitter by a username I'm not going to read out loud tweeted, "The strip club is sadly a leading indicator, and I can promise y'all we're in a recession." The post was made in May of 2022, and at the time, there was still significant debate about whether the US was actually going to go into recession. Well, just 3 months later, and the data revealed that GDP had declined for a second quarter in a row, which is the definition of a technical recession. And this isn't just a once-off story. It's so common that it's been dubbed the stripper index. It's the concept of using stripper cash tips as an indicator of the state of the economy. Not only is adult entertainment spending definitely a discretionary expense, it's usually one of the first ones to go when there is an economic downturn. Urban Institute's analysis of the sex work industry found that 5 of the 7 cities in their study saw revenue declines from 2003 to 2007, years in advance of the market crash, which started at the end of 2007. 66.7% of sex workers receive cash tips, so when their tips start declining, it's extremely noticeable. As strippers, we always have to be aware of fluctuations in the market and how upper-class white men are behaving and spending their money. Unfortunately, the stripper index is basically just anecdotal. The only publicly traded strip club company we could look at would be RCI Holdings. Their revenue fell 26.8% in the 2020 recession, but COVID restrictions were likely the main reason for it. But what about today? Is anyone sounding the alarm about a recession in the near future? Well, an article published at the end of last year quoted one Vegas dancer who said her income was down by half in December year over year and had heard similar stories from other dancers in Vegas, saying, "If Vegas girls aren't making money, no one's making money." When looking into recession indicators, I fully expected there to be some clues in the ways we cut money that could indicate that an economic recession is around the corner. But what I didn't expect to find was that there's actually one product that we buy more of when times are tough. This is Leonard Lauder, the son of Joseph and Estee Lauder. His parents started producing skin lotion in the 1940s and grew the company into one of the biggest cosmetic empires in the world. And as the chairman of the company in 2001, Leonard noticed a rather unusual pattern in the sales of their products. During periods of recession, the sales of most products declined, but there was one category that actually increased: lipstick. At the time, the most recent recession had been in 1990, and sure enough, lipstick sales had risen noticeably. The Wall Street Journal reported Leonard's findings on the 26th of November 2001. This, of course, was very shortly after the tragic events of September 11, and there was a lot of speculation around whether the US was going to go into recession. Leonard believed a recession was coming because his lipstick index, which tracked the sales across Estee Lauder brands, had gone up since the terrorist attacks. And it wasn't just their company. MAC lipstick sales were up 12% in 3 weeks, and Borghese Cosmetics had also seen a 12% rise since mid-September when compared to the previous year. But the most shocking part of this story published by the Wall Street Journal was that literally the next day, the US was officially declared to be in recession. The determination was made by the National Bureau of Economic Research, which isn't a government agency, it's just a non-profit organization, but its tally of US recessions is recognized by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Leonard Lauder's explanation for this was that when women needed to cut back on their luxury purchases, they tended to just spend more on smaller things like lipstick. When lipstick sales go up, people don't want to buy dresses. But while certainly credited for coming up with the lipstick index, Leonard Lauder's index doesn't always work. A few years later, in the 2008 recession, sales of lipstick contracted with the economy, dropping 6% in a year, and even worse for lip gloss, market research firm NPD reported they fell 14%. An indicator that did work in the 2008 recession is by far the weirdest one that I came across: mosquitoes. The collapse of the US housing market triggered a global financial crisis worse than anything since the Great Depression. It was of course predicted by a few diligent investors like Michael Burry, who looked at mortgages being sold by the banks and found that anyone with a pulse could borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars, even if you weren't human.
I'm looking for a Harvey Humpsey. You want my landlord's dog? Your landlord filled out his mortgage application using his dog's name?
But all of that analysis could have been avoided if they'd just looked at the mosquitoes. In 2009, Maricopa County Environmental Services Department saw a 60% jump in the number of pools being treated for insects in just 2 years. The increase likely indicates two clues. One, that there were lots of empty homes just sitting there degrading away, and two, owners were getting their pools treated because they were preparing their homes to be sold.
Let me stop right there for a minute, because that's why you got a lot of people that are going into people's houses and they're staying in those houses and nobody can get them out, and squatters. And that's been going on the past few years when it comes to Airbnbs, which is the reason why so many people are having problems getting these people out their house. So when you start seeing a lot of bugs, a lot of flies, you start seeing a lot of rodents, that right there tell you that houses have been sitting for a while. And what government don't understand is debt is actually destroying this country. It's not making this country better. It's destroying this country in a major way, because when you are putting people in debt to where they cannot get a house, you're making the interest rate almost impossible, to the point that people can't even afford to move out of their apartments. It's even harder to get an apartment because it's 3 or 4 times the rent. So yeah, it's not good. This situation is not good at all. But that's why you have so many squatters, staying in people's houses and they can't get them out because they've been there longer than 30 days, and you can't get them out. And the police ain't gonna do nothing if they've been in there past 30 days. So it don't matter whether you want them in there or not. The point is, they've been in that house for 30 days. There was one woman that has been trying to get this woman out of her house for the longest in South Carolina, and they told her she had to go to court to get them out. So yeah, that's definitely true what he said about the mosquitoes and all of that. That's how you know when things are going bad, when people's houses have been sitting there for a while and people are not rushing to buy a house no more. People are starting to really let go of this American dream and letting it go completely, and just saying, you know what, I'd rather be alone than be unhappy. But let's continue.
The award for the saddest indicator goes to the first date index. In the fourth quarter of 2008, Match.com said it had its best period in 7 years, as an increase in loneliness and anxiety leads to more online dating. Okay, I know these last few indicators are ridiculous and pointless. I just thought they'd be fun to include. But what's not ridiculous is the last indicator that I'm going to talk about. This graph has predicted every recession since 1976.
No offense, but if you still think stocks, real estate, or crypto are the best passive income
And when I say predicted, I mean predicted, like 1 to 2 years in advance every time. It works every time because it shows how investor behavior actually induces recessions, in cycles like clockwork every 5 to 8 years. It's called the 10-2 bond spread. There's a little bit of explaining that I need to do, but I promise it's worth understanding, especially given what it's showing today. A bond is an asset that pays a fixed payment called a coupon over a specified period. If you take the annual coupon and divide it by the price of the bond, you get the bond's yield, which is how much the investor would earn as a percentage of their upfront investment. And since the coupon payment is fixed, changes in the bond's yield are caused by changes in the bond's price. Higher price means a lower yield, and vice versa. The 10-2 bond spread focuses on two specific types of treasury bonds. One's maturing in 2 years and one's maturing in 10 years. When the US government needs to borrow money, they issue and sell these bonds, as well as ones of all different lengths, as short as 1 month and up to 30 years. The 10-2 spread simply takes the yield of the 10-year government bond and subtracts the yield of the 2-year bond. So we can track the difference in yield every day going back to 1976. And as you can see, most of the time the spread is positive, meaning the yield on the 10-year bond is higher than the yield on the 2-year bond. The most widely understood reason is something called the liquidity premium theory, which basically says that there's a risk associated with having your money locked away for longer. And so you demand or you earn a higher yield to compensate for that risk. But occasionally the spread briefly goes negative, meaning the 2-year bond is offering a higher yield than the 10-year bond. Remember, both of these bonds are government bonds, so the only difference to you as an investor is how long your money is locked away. And so you might find it kind of irrational that during some periods of time, people are willing to lock their money away for longer and accept a lower yield at the same time. What's fascinating is that the grey bars on the chart reflect periods of economic recession. There hasn't been a US recession that's occurred without the 10-2 spread first going negative, and there hasn't been a negative 10-2 spread that wasn't quickly followed by a recession. Both the 10 and 2-year bond yields tend to move in the same direction, but a negative spread can occur when the yield on the 2-year bond is rising faster than the 10-year bond. Or just to put it more simply, bond yields across all different lengths of bonds are rising, but the longer bonds are rising slower because more people are wanting to lock their money away for longer, which they do if they believe an economic slowdown is coming. But it's not just that the 10-2 spread shows investor expectations, it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy. A higher yield on short-term bonds means a higher return for the investor, but on the other side, it means a higher interest payment for the borrower. Broadly, this means less profits for companies and less money being invested in growth. And every time since 1976, that's produced a recession. Today, the 10-2 spread is negative. The 10-year yield dipped under the 2-year bond yield about 2 years ago. The most important part to understand from an investor perspective is that you can't really use this in your investing process because every time the time frame has been different. And so you can't really use this as a way to sell your stocks and then buy back in after the market crashes. If you had sold your shares when the spread went negative in 2022, you would have missed out on about a 30% return plus dividends. But regardless, it'll certainly be fascinating to watch the 10-2 spread and the economy over the next year or so to see if it once again has predicted a recession. If you enjoyed the video, consider hitting the subscribe button and check out one of these videos next.
So you see, when it comes to this recession, they're trying to hide it by, people still spending money, going to concerts. People are still shopping for things that are unnecessary. Why? Because they have credit cards. And they're not understanding that you still have student loans and all of that And student loans is the number one thing besides medical bills that'll mess up your credit. But now they can't put medical bills back on your credit anymore. So I don't know why they even have debt collectors still calling you when they can't put it on your credit no more. But that's a whole nother conversation. But like I said, they're making it seem like, oh, the United States is good. The United States got, lowest in unemployment. But if you go to these other countries, a whole different ballgame. So like I said, no, they ain't wrong. So like I said, this situation is getting more and more insane. And like I said, that's what people do. They don't want people to know something, so they'll mask it. And like I said, this country is all about an infection that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because instead of curing the issue, instead of trying to stop the whole entire infection, no, you just want to put a band-aid on it and cover it up, not understanding that a lot of people are now homeless. The homeless rate is insane. You even got people online talking about giving them money because they're homeless now. They can't afford to stay where they're going to stay. So that's going to be the question. So like I said, it's just sad what we're dealing with. The fact that we can't afford anything. Because like I said, if you take away the credit cards, what else you got? Nothing. But here's another video I found about why is the U.S. consumer feel broke. Let me share my screen, because we're going to have this conversation about why the American people feel like they broke. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to take myself out. And if I feel that I need to come back in, then I will definitely come back in. So bear with me a minute. So I'm going to take myself out and then start the video, and I'll be back when it's over.
This chart shows consumers' confidence in the economy during the Biden and Trump administrations. As of June 2024, confidence in the economy under President Biden averaged nearly 28 points lower compared to during former President Trump's term. It hit an all-time low back in June of 2022. According to the latest survey from Gallup, 53% of Americans believe the Republican Party will do a better job with the economy, compared to just 39% who favor the Democrats.
At this point, every survey that I know of tells me that Republicans are seen as having the advantage for the management of the economy.
Voters seem to think that President Trump was a better steward of the economy than President Biden. And I think that's going to be an important advantage for Republicans.
While the U.S. technically isn't in a recession, roughly 3 out of 5 Americans believe it is. In 2024, nearly 3/4 of Americans said strengthening the economy should be a top policy priority, while a third mentioned economic issues as the nation's most important problem.
I think that the economy is really top of mind for people. They are really concerned with how their families are doing financially and economically. We are in a very strange situation where people don't feel like they're thriving in spite of many strong indicators in the economy.
So did Americans enjoy a better economy under President Trump or Biden? And which candidate will be able to fix the economy?
I think a lot of economists and commentators, and certainly a lot of politicians, believe that there is a disparity between how consumers are feeling about the economy and what the high-level economic statistics about economic growth, about the level of employment, about the rate of unemployment are telling you.
Statistics of that sort cut very little ice with average households and with voters. They judge principally on the basis of their own experience. From the standpoint of consumers and average households, the issue is, how am I living? Is my ability to afford the basics of daily life improving or not?
President Biden's term has seen the highest inflation in 40 years, reaching a 4-decade peak of 9.1% in June 2022. As of June 2024, prices rose by 19.3% during his term, compared to just 5% for former President Trump during the same time frame in office.
Consumer sentiment during President Biden's time in office has been quite weak, and I think the explanation for that is pretty straightforward. People really don't like inflation.
High inflation also ate into Americans' purchasing power. According to estimates, the average inflation-adjusted weekly paycheck shrunk by about 4.4%, or $50 during Biden's term. That's despite the fact that wages have risen faster under Biden than under Trump.
Average households have judged that their wages, salaries, and annual incomes have not been rising robustly during this period, even as there's been an extended period of what economists regard as full employment.
Price inflation has been growing faster than wage inflation.
Okay, let me first say this has been going on. This is way before now. Even before COVID, it has been an issue when it comes to people being able to afford groceries and being able to pay their rent. It has been going on. It's just grew higher. And so, like I said, the Republicans are the ones that brought this in, not the Democrats. But the Republicans have done a way of doing things, and they always want to blame the Democrats. The problem is the Democrats allowed them to do it. And let's not forget about Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them talking about the woke culture and bringing in all these Christian people. See, y'all forget there are other groups that are also involved in this. And with Trump, he's talking about making the rich wealthier and the poor poorer. So, y'all just don't be listening to Trump. At the end of the day, like I said, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a pitchy mess regardless of who wins. Like I said, at the end of the day, there are people out here that basically are not making the money they're supposed to be making. And the reason why that is because government allows businesses and they allow all these wealthy people to not pay taxes. They let all these wealthy people do whatever it is they want to do. And that is part of the problem, because it is the wealthy that pretty much run this country. They're the ones that actually, whoever the president is going to be, is going to make sure the presidents let them do whatever it is they want to. So they want to go ahead and continue the same nonsense. Trust me, they can. So at the end of the day, I don't get the fact that so many people, I don't know. Like I said, it's crazy what's going on, but this has been going on long before this situation. And all it is the reason the recession is going on, and I keep telling people this is intentional. This recession is intentional, because the recession doesn't have to happen. What happened was, and it really doesn't have anything to do with Biden, it's got everything to do with Russia and China. That's what the issue is. The American dollar is about to be it's not going to be of value. The American dollar has dropped when it comes to being the money that everybody uses. And because the dollar is about to be non and void, and that's why a lot of people don't even accept U.S. money anymore, because it's not worth anything. And that's why you got to go over there and change your money over to the money that they have, because again, everything's going to be about, minerals and all this other stuff. It's not going to be about the stuff y'all talking about. So again, you're wrong. So no, we ain't gonna do that today. Like I said, this has been going on. There have been a lot of people that haven't been able to survive even before COVID. And all it is Russia is putting their foot in the United States' neck. And not only that, I'm also going to say something else. The majority of the products in this country were made by the same country they now have an issue with, China. China is the one that made a lot of clothes. They made a lot of our, PlayStation, Xboxes. So now they're sending the stuff to India. The problem is India charges more when it comes to making our products, hair, all this other stuff. So United States does not make anything that is of their own. Everything is made by countries overseas. Just like you got Congo that's over there, that's basically being enslaved to make minerals, and they don't get a dime out of that. And that's the sad part about it. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's a lot going on, but a lot of people just don't know. But like I said, the only reason we're in a recession is because now the people that used to make our products don't make our products no more. So that's a problem. So like I said, it's just crazy everything that's going on. But this has been going on since before now. It's just now Caucasian people are being hit with it. See, when black people and all these other minorities were being hit with this, it wasn't a problem. Now Caucasian people are being hit with it now, and that's why it's an issue. It was never an issue before when it was minorities, but now it's an issue now. Nothing has changed. It just is now it's just hitting Caucasian people. And now it's an issue. So now Caucasian people are now knowing how minorities are feeling in these situations, and they don't like it. So let's continue.
So the purchasing power of wages has actually gone down. You're able to buy less with every dollar you work.
When you have buying power that's been eroded, what in the past might have seemed like a necessity is all of a sudden at risk. And so a $4 cup of coffee at Starbucks or a $5 plus value meal at McDonald's becomes a luxury under those circumstances. And all of a sudden, even though that's not occurring in the context of a technical recession, it feels recession-like to many, a technical definition that's irrelevant for somebody who can't afford to buy what they want, much less can't afford what they need.
Nevertheless, economists acknowledge that the Biden administration has made significant strides in growing the economy.
The challenge associated with the pandemic and then the beginning of the Biden administration was one of the most immense and difficult challenges that has faced the American economy and by extension, a president and political leaders and the citizenry. One of the most challenging in a century. The performance of the U.S. economy, let's say over the last couple of years, as we speak in 2024, has been much more robust and resilient than would have been expected.
A direct comparison of hard economic data shows that the economy under Biden was stronger than it was under Trump across several important measures. Discounting the months most affected by the pandemic, Biden's administration added a monthly average of 269,000 jobs compared to Trump's 180,000. The S&P 500 index also saw a 42.1% rise during Biden's term, compared to 33.6% over the same period for Trump, hitting record highs in 2024. Overall, the U.S. economy grew by 8.4% since Biden took office, compared to 6.5% during the same period under Trump.
We brought this economy back from the brink, and we've designed our strategy not only to provide for a temporary boost, but to lay the foundation for a long-term boom that brings everyone along.
But the economy's rebound cannot be solely attributed to the Biden administration.
Part of that is the fiscal response that emanated because of actions by presidents and the House and Senate in spending money to ride to the rescue. The other part of it is that the Federal Reserve gets pretty good marks for having eventually shown up and restricting interest rates and allowing for a sustainable economic expansion.
Experts also say that the very measures aimed to boost the economy were also what hurt the consumers in the end.
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly encourage you to start a bookkeeping business.
As a result of the various stimulus packages enacted in 2020 and 2021, economists estimate that American households had accumulated $2.5 trillion more in savings than they would have had without the stimulus bills that were enacted under first Donald Trump and next Joe Biden. And so when the economy reopened, that huge pile of accumulated savings came up against an economic reopening that was spotty. And famously, the supply chains that help companies in the United States produce what American consumers wanted, those supply chains were snarled and disrupted. So if inflation is too much money meeting too few goods, right? The stage was set for a classic spike of inflation, and that's exactly what happened.
To combat this inflation, the Federal Reserve has had to raise interest rates to relatively high levels. And that affects the interest rate that you pay on your credit card statement. It affects the interest rate that you face if you want to take out a loan to buy a car. It certainly affects the interest rate if you want to take out a mortgage and buy a home. And so uncertainty about the level of prices, declining inflation-adjusted wages and incomes, and really high interest rates all add up to consumers not feeling great about how things have been going over the last few years.
Economists are still debating how much Biden's stimulus can be blamed for the burden of inflation. President Trump had also signed a $2.2 trillion stimulus bill into law during his time in office, sending out $814 billion worth of financial relief to those affected by the pandemic, over 3 rounds of stimulus checks.
When the American Rescue Plan was signed, the unemployment rate was falling, not rising. The economy was growing, not shrinking. Households were sitting on a whole bunch of excess savings. Putting a bunch of stimulus into a growing economy doesn't make sense. So if the American Rescue Plan had never happened, we still would have had an inflation problem. But in my view, the American Rescue Plan took what would have been a moderate, but still real inflation problem and turned it into pretty severe inflation problem. And I would even go so far as to say that the American Rescue Plan was probably the most reckless fiscal policy pursued by the U.S. government in decades.
We do not know and may never know what would have happened to the economy if the Biden administration had done nothing to further stimulate it after it took office.
The American Rescue Plan passes any cost-benefit analysis with flying colors for 2 reasons. One, I know critics want to assign inflation to the American Rescue Plan. Inflation went up in every advanced economy, and in fact, it went up more in Europe and the UK than it did here, and that's because of their closer exposure to the war. As the supply chain snarl-ups began to resolve, you saw inflation come down, and at the same time, the rescue plan reduced child poverty, preserved union pensions, helped families and businesses get to the other side of the crisis. So the twofold reason why the critiques of the rescue plan are wrong is because they misdiagnose inflation as a uniquely U.S. problem, and they ignore the benefit side of the ledger.
Former President Trump's campaign did not respond to CNBC's request for comment. But a consensus among economists is that neither Biden nor Trump is entirely to blame.
I think it is never fair to blame or credit a single president for what's happening in the economy when those things were happening before that person even took office.
The primary causes of inflation were really 2 things. One was the imbalance between supply and demand as supply chains really seized up, and we had the lack of production of a lot of things. And we had immense demand for a lot of things that could not be or wasn't matched by production. Sort of adding a second leg to inflation was Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It led to massive increases in commodities prices and energy costs. To some degree, consumers themselves were to blame for the inflation, because who is it that has the say over demand for goods and services? It's all the people who buy those things. And so consumers themselves help to inflame this imbalance between supply and demand. But, if you're talking about putting food on the table, you don't have a lot of choice. You might have some choice in what you buy, but you don't have choice in whether you're going to buy food and energy and paying for shelter.
At the end of the day, a president often has very limited impact on how the economy performs.
Americans have a tradition of either giving credit for the performance of the economy to the president or giving blame to the president for the performance of the economy. And the irony about all that is, whether that's deserved or not, the presidents themselves try to take credit or blame shift with respect to the performance of the economy, whether it's warranted or not. I think ascribing great control of the economy to any given president is a fool's errand. And what I mean by that is the U.S. economy, which is connected to the global economy, is much more complex than that. My sense is ultimately our U.S. Federal Reserve and its decisions are much more important, much more relevant and meaningful for how the economy performs than a U.S. president.
Wix, gives you the power of AI to build the website you need.
The unprecedented nature of the pandemic also makes it challenging to directly compare the economies during Biden's and Trump's terms.
The sharp break that we see in sentiment is not so much between Trump and Biden, but I would say before and after the COVID pandemic.
A talking point that's being used against President Trump is that he lost more jobs than any president ever. Those job losses that occurred at the end of his term were a consequence of the pandemic. I think President Biden is being heavily criticized about the inflation the United States has experienced. The American Rescue Plan made our inflation problem a lot worse, but we still would have had an inflation problem even if it weren't for the American Rescue Plan.
You can't look at the last 5, 8, 10 years without sort of saying asterisk, maybe 10 asterisks, there was this pandemic. There's just no way to separate that out. And if you do, you risk being wrong or simply overlooking an immense event in recent American and human history.
Even so, the Republicans may have the advantage on economic issues in voters' eyes.
Every survey that I know of tells me that Republicans are seen as having the advantage for the management of the economy. Time will tell whether that gap can be narrowed. But right now, the gap is real and it is significant in its size.
For the Democrats, it's up to Kamala Harris to convince voters of what she can achieve with the economy.
I think Vice President Harris was given an opportunity, in a sense, by President Biden when, I think mistakenly, he seized upon this phraseology of Bidenomics, which was to take essentially too much credit for the performance of the U.S. economy, which, unbeknownst to him, ended up being translated to blame for the inflation that most Americans associate with their current experience.
Being at the top of the ticket rather than being at the bottom of the ticket gives her the opportunity to state her own priorities, reintroduce herself to the American people.
It's not clear that Democrats can score an outright win when you turn to visions of the future as opposed to arguments about the past. But I think they have a better chance of narrowing the economic gap that now separates the two parties in the eyes of the American people if they focus on the future.
And this is why this is important, because this has been going on. You have Republicans that are about making the rich richer and the poor poorer, and you have the Democrats that basically sit back and watch, let them do it. That's the problem. People don't understand things can change. All you have to do is just change it. They don't want to. They don't want to change it because they're afraid of change. And they're so afraid that this new generation is going to come in and pretty much change the whole Constitution and make it fair for everybody. They don't want everything fair for everybody. And now, because of that, everybody's suffering. You know, it's to the point now that the foods that we eat, we can't even eat because they're contaminated, full of bacteria, full of allergens, full of stuff that 160 countries don't even use because they ban it. So it's just a lot of stuff right now that is really going on, and it's not good. It's not good at all. And it's hurting our country. It just seemed like ever since the situation with China and Russia, the United States is paying for it. And like I said, it proves that the United States does not, when it comes to a lot of our products, it don't come from here. It comes from overseas. And being the fact that you have, all these countries that are turning their backs on the United States that was actually keeping this country thriving. And now you got people that don't want to work McDonald's. They don't want to work these fast food restaurants. That's a problem. And that's why they try to, get people out of these certain positions so they can get people right to work these lower jobs. And it just is not happening. People do not want to work McDonald's. People don't want to work fast food. People don't want to work in an office. And now you got all of these people that are nomads that are living on, in their RVs and their cars. And then you got people out here that's homeless and they're living out here. And like I said, the homeless rate is sky high. And that's why they're trying to say, well, if you're homeless and you're on the street, we're arresting you, because they don't want the rest of the world to know how bad the United States is which is the reason why on Twitter they're trying to ban Twitter, because people are on Twitter, no, not Twitter, TikTok, trying to ban TikTok. And that's the reason why they're trying to ban it, because people are on social media talking about the United States and what is going on. But like I said, this didn't become an issue until it hit Caucasian people. And I'm gonna tell you what happened. It wasn't COVID that honestly did this. What it was when it came time to vote, and people should have voted for their best interest. They didn't. They voted because of racial reasons. Like when it came down to Georgia, and they could have got rid of Marjorie Taylor Greene. They could have got rid of Ron DeSantis. They could have got rid of all of these Republicans that were causing these issues. They didn't want to get rid of them. They put them in office. Because when Roe versus Wade came, they should have known, okay, go ahead and get rid of all these Republicans that are voting against my best interest. But because of the racial issues that's in this country is the reason this is happening. Racial issues. The fact that they are so worried about minorities. And then you got Caucasian people that are marrying and having children with other race of people that are non-Caucasian. That's what the issue is, but they don't want to say it. It's just like all of these Christian people, and they're not really even Christian people. These are people that just have these agendas, talking about babies not, having babies out of wedlock. How are you gonna get people to get married, not alone stay married, when you have a whole sex industry that's making billions of dollars? You have a whole modeling industry, a whole, music industry that is making billions off sex sales. Okay. I don't know how they're gonna do that. I don't know how you're gonna do that when you'd have to get rid of all of the drug epidemic. You'd have to figure out how to stop bringing drugs into the country. You would have to stop all of the, people going to church. You'd have to have one religion. And that's why, Donald Trump's on this dictatorship nonsense, talking about when he get in office, nobody's going to have to vote again. Yeah, because he's going to make himself president, so where he's going to be the only president, him and his kids. That's going to be terrible. And that Project 2025 is another issue as well. Project 2025 pretty much is saying exactly that. It is going to be about, like I said, Donald Trump will say anything to get in office. And when he gets in office, he don't do half of what he's supposed to do. He is so busy being on social media, so busy on some other nonsense. And now even the Republicans are like, we should have picked somebody else. So they regret the fact they put Donald Trump in office. And it's bad when you got Republicans sponsoring Kamala Harris. Oh, okay. So like I said, this has been going on as far as people living in the ghettos and people living in trailer parks and low income, and it's been going on as far as people not making enough money to pay their bills. It has been going on. It's just now Caucasian people are now going through it. And now that they're going through it, now it's a problem. But it wasn't a problem when minorities were going through it. It wasn't a problem when Black people were in the ghettos having the worst education and everything else. And now your kids are going through it. Now it's, oh my God, now we can't pay our bills. Y'all the ones put these people in office. The same ones that's complaining are the same ones that put them in office. You put people in office that did not have your husband's or your children's best interest, aka MAGA. All them people in Georgia, it was 55% of people that voted for Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was 55% of white women that voted for the Republicans that's sitting in this office right now. And that's why Black women is like, okay, go ahead and vote them in and see what happens. And sure enough, they took away affirmative action. They took away Roe versus Wade. They about to bring back Jim Crow. In some states, they already got Jim Crow already back. So it's a lot that's getting ready to happen in this country. It's about to be ugly. It's about to get ugly. And so now you got Caucasian people like, oh my God, we can't pay our bills. We don't make enough money. You're the ones that put these people in office. Y'all the ones put all them people in the southern states in office. Y'all the ones that sat there and allowed Donald Trump to put them people in the Supreme Court. That was y'all. That had nothing to do with me, because I did not vote for Trump. And everybody's talking about we're not going to put Trump back in office because of everything he did. And now all of a sudden now y'all want to put him back in office thinking he going to give y'all stimulus checks. He is not giving y'all no stimulus checks. That man is not giving y'all no stimulus checks. Y'all need to let that go, because that just ain't happening. He is not giving y'all no stimulus checks. So again, like I said, but it wasn't just Caucasian people. It was also the Hispanic community in Florida. They could have got rid of Ron DeSantis. Nope. They voted for him. So no, all of y'all who voted for them people, take everything that come with that. Because I am not. But like I said, not every Caucasian person voted for Donald Trump. They didn't. Not every Caucasian person voted for these people that's in office now. But they're the ones now telling them now. Y'all the ones put them in office. Because now you even got women who did not vote for these people coming out and saying, we got to take this one because it's our fault. I've seen it on social media all the time where I see Caucasian women saying, it ain't black women's fault. They didn't vote. They didn't vote for Trump. They didn't vote for all these Republicans. They voted Democrat. We the ones that vote. Y'all the ones that voted for these people. And now you got to take everything that come with it. And then in 2026, we got to vote again to see who's going to be in office as far as all these 51 states. Well, all these 49 states, because Puerto Rico and Hawaii don't count, and all the islands don't count. But I'm just saying, we're going to see what's going to happen in 2026 when it's time to vote for your person that's going to be in office. We shall see. But like I said, Gen Z is not playing with y'all. Gen Z said, absolutely not. Are we going to let that red wave slide? We ain't doing it. And that's exactly what they did. They voted blue. And that's why they mad at Gen Z, because Gen Z is not dealing with these Republicans. Gen Z does not want nothing to do with Republicans in any shape, form, or fashion. Because Gen Z is not having kids. Gen Z is not even getting married. So, like I said, the only way to heal this country is to start completely over. We got to realize that all this stuff that worked back in the day is not working in modern civilization. It ain't working. It's just like a good example. I was talking to somebody today, and I said that a lot of these jobs that I have worked for in the past, I got all this experience, and yet they only want to pay me between maybe $13 to maybe $19 an hour. And I have 8 years of billing experience. So when I hear people say, they're going to pay me $22 or $23 an hour, I tell people I'm not going in an office unless you pay me $24 an hour. I am not going in an office where I got to be stuck in traffic and be there for 8 hours. And, no, because I work 10-hour shifts. So the fact that work 10 hours and they got to turn around and get in the car and drive back, no thank you. Unless I'm literally like around the corner. So like I said, at the end of the day, these are things that you guys sit back and think about. But like I said, I hate that we as a country in general are all being affected by this situation. But like I said, you got to vote for people. I don't care what race they are, that have your best interests at heart when it comes to what is best for all Americans. I don't care if they're black, white, Hispanic, Puerto Rican. It don't matter. We have to get rid of these racial issues and stop thinking that everything is about race and about color, and it should be more about individuals. Because like I said, at the end of the day, regardless of what race we all are the same when it comes to our body types. We're all the same. It's just some of us are shaped differently. But we all got a heart, lungs, kidneys, all of that. So at the end of the day, I don't know why people can't understand that just because somebody else is smaller, somebody else is bigger, just because somebody else is whatever. That's the way God made them. So the fact that, everybody's on this thing, well, this person doesn't look this way, it doesn't mean they can't run. So, like I said, there you go. All right, y'all. So I'm getting ready to go to bed, but I just wanted to play those two videos and, talk about this recession. But really, people right now need to understand we are all individuals in the end of the day. And everybody deals with their situations differently. Everybody handles their situations according to what they feel is best for them. And at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, if your faith in God is really that strong, then not even this recession is gonna, put you in fear, because it's gonna be okay. And even if it's not, it's gonna be okay eventually. At the end of the day, like I said, we are in a recession. I don't care what nobody say, we are in a recession. And everybody is using credit cards to survive. That's how people go into these concerts. That is the only reason why this country is still thriving, because people are basically using credit cards, not understanding this country is going more and more debt because of it. The more people keep using credit cards, the more in debt that we are. And then when y'all start wondering why you can't buy a house, well, because you went to a Chris Brown concert and did not pay that credit card off. Because them credit cards are worse than anything else. They are worse than anything else. And people can barely pay their bills at this point. People are barely getting by. People are barely paying their rent at this point. And then, rents are charging you, like, for example, let's say your water is included. They charging you more than you just having water yourself, and charging you more. There are some people charging for apartments that ain't even worth $1,000. You have houses that ain't even worth that much. People are charging double. Then not only that, you got all of these HSAs and all these people that's constantly charging people. You got some states where you don't have any tornado or flood insurance. And I remember Ron DeSantis said he didn't want no money from FEMA for all the people that went through them tornadoes. And of course, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, like I said, these people y'all put in office. So, for those of y'all who put these people in office, ain't no point of being upset now. Y'all put them there. And that's the whole point of this conversation. When it comes to your best interest, I don't care about racism. What I care about is the person that cares about my best interest, and I don't care what race they are. Because at the end of the day, we are all Americans. And that's the point. We are all Americans. We all live in this country. We are all now struggling. We are all going through something. We are all doing the best we can to survive. We are all trying to make it in this world. And point blank, period. We have a bunch of wishing wealthy people that want people to stay broke. They want people to stay in the lower class. It is to the point now you can't even get an advance. They want to basically make retirement 80. I think it's like 80 now. So yeah, they want you to work till you're 80 years old now. They want you not to be able to retire. You can't get a raise. So if people can't retire until they're 80 years old, then that means that people are not going to be able to move up in the company, which means you'll still be sitting in the same position 20, 30 years later. It's just like with, who is that? The Veronica series. If any of y'all been on TikTok and y'all been seeing them Veronica videos, and y'all remember them videos, well, remember they talk about different things. Like there was one Veronica video where they tried to ask her to work a position, and she was like, well, am I getting more money? And they was like, no, you're not getting no more money. Then I'm not taking the job. I remember they said she made 80,000, 85,000, but she'd have to work 60 hours a week. She said, if I work that, then that's less than what I make now. So like I said, sometimes you got to think about that when it comes to salary. Now, even though salary is a benefit because the fact that you get to basically what's the word I'm looking for? You'll be able to take time off and still get paid, and that is a great thing. But what doesn't make it a benefit is the fact that you're in a situation where you have to, if you work 60 hours a week versus 40 hours a week, you don't get overtime. That's the only bad thing about it. But other than that, working salary can be a good thing. But that's if you're getting $50,000 a year. If you're getting $50,000 a year, then you good. Because some people ain't even seeing $45,000 a year. The average person may get 36,000. Most people are working like maybe 18, 19 dollars an hour. And then what's even more crazier, you got certain jobs that basically essentially are not giving you, say for example, back in the day, based upon your experience, was how much you got paid. So for example, if you had 8 years of experience, you got paid $25, $30 an hour because you had 8 years of experience. Now, nope. They pay you like you just started doing billing for the first time. So you have a lot of people that will go and apply for a job, and then you'll ask them how much are y'all starting off with? 19. So there's no negotiation. Nope. Well, then I can't work there. And the problem is now people are like, nope, because these kids, these new age kids, if I'm not getting paid $20 an hour, I'm not working there. And that includes fast food. That's why fast food went up. So it's funny how fast food can go up from $7.25 to $20 an hour, and yet these regular jobs, the ones, doctor's offices and all these other jobs, aren't going up. Why? Because they're gonna have to. Because if fast food has went up to $18 an hour, then guess what? So do these other jobs. The problem is they don't want to. It ain't the fact they can't, they don't want to. So it's not about your experience anymore. It's not. So now you're sitting here pissed off because you've been working 8 years in a particular position, and now you can't get paid for it. So let's say, for example, retirement. People going from job to job because between managers and the way they're being treated, and then the fact they're doing somebody else's job and 2 or 3 other jobs that they shouldn't be doing. They're not getting no overtime, and most people are not able to be off. So say, for example, you say, I'm going out of town because I'm going to Vegas. They telling you can't go to Vegas. Now, instead of, having a half a day where everybody can get off on Friday for a half a day, now people working Monday through Friday. When are they going to be able to go to the doctor's office? Now you have to do telehealth because you can't even go to the doctor's office. So even with women that have babies, they want them to come back within 6 weeks. Some of them get paid leave, some of them don't. So it's a lot going on. So people are like, then what's the point? Because, you know what I'm saying, if I don't have any incentive and you're only paying me this amount of money, but you want me to do this amount of work, or I don't have everything that I need, or you're not training me thoroughly like you should, then guess what? People are not going to stay at jobs, which is why the economy is the way it is. And then with social media and you get all these people making all this money, people now are just saying, you know what, forget it. I'll just do social media. I'll get paid to do social media, and I don't have to pay taxes for it because I can get cash apps and PayPal. I can go viral and get paid. So now people are like, you know what? I can create an ebook. I can go and put my book on social media. I can go and now be a life coach. People now are realizing they can make money. People now like, you know what? I can sell jewelry. I can do this to make money. So now when they start making money, that's when they like, you know what? I quit. Because people now are basically doing multiple streams of income. So people are not stupid nowadays. This generation is not dumb. Generation Z is like, I'm not going to college. Going to college for what? My niece just graduated college and still cannot find a job in what she went to school for. But yeah, she's gonna have student loans. And I feel like if you're not in the job that you went to school for, you should not be charging people student loans. And when I graduated healthcare management, I ended up right back at a job. I think it was like $13 an hour, but it was through a temporary agency. Let's not even forget about the fact that in the medical field, there are more people going through staffing jobs for people in India, because you might have people from India calling you, telling you they have a position for you where you work in a staffing company, but you're only getting paid $15 an hour. And you're like, no, bro, I'm not paying $15, $16 an hour when fast food people make $15, $16 an hour. $15, $16 an hour barely pays my rent. Absolutely not. So now when you look at jobs now across the board, people now are cheaply paying people. People now are barely paying. And every time you get a raise or a cost of living raise, everything go up. Y'all ain't never pay attention to all of this stuff. This stuff has been going on. It has been going on. So like I said, the only thing that's keeping this country together is right now credit. And every time you talk about getting your credit back, what's the first thing they put in front of you? Credit cards. When you're in college, what's the first thing they put in front of you? Credit cards. And then when you go to try to go get a house or try to get a car, you have to have a cosigner because they're telling you you have no credit. But you want me to get a credit card. So you want me to get a credit card and be in debt with credit and then turn around trying to get a car. I can't get a car because I have all these credit card bills and all these hospital bills. And instead of them saying, you know what, we're gonna make free health care and pay these doctors $100,000 a year. No, they don't want to do that. That'd be too easy. Instead of them saying, you know what, we're gonna lower everything as far as housing, so people can not only be able to get housing, but being able to have extra money to be able to travel. Why don't we could, have a work-life balance? You know what I'm saying? No, they don't want to do that. They don't believe in work-life balance. They believe in themselves having a work-life balance, but they don't believe in everybody else having a work-life balance. So when it comes to recovery, these are the things you need to understand. You're not even supposed to be working until 75. Man, let me let y'all in on a secret. When I was in Germany, the whole purpose of you working a job is for you to be able to have your own company. So everybody now, what that entails. In America, y'all need to listen to what I'm getting ready to say, because this is huge. You're not supposed to work a job for 60 years. That is not the way this is supposed to go. You're supposed to work to learn a craft or learn something in order to build a business out of it. That is what you're supposed to do. So, for example, you're supposed to leave your child a legacy. You can't leave your child a legacy and you all you did was work a regular 9-to-5 job. Leaving a legacy is something you pass down to your kids. And the real reason why kids are selling everything is because people don't want them to actually run a business. They want them to pretty much work, which is the reason why your kids are not going to want your house and why they sell everything, because they don't realize money has no value. What has value is property. What has value is material things. So for example, if your car, as soon as you take it off the lot, it depreciates. As soon as you get a house, it depreciates. Now, houses do not depreciate. They don't. If anything, they go higher, depending on what house it is. But at the end of the day, instead of them keeping the house, instead of people going and getting land, y'all want to get purses and all of these things that your kids ain't gonna do nothing but get rid of. They're gonna get rid of all of it. That's what I'm saying. Cardi B and all them buying all these purses. I'm like, what the point of buying all this stuff when your kids are not going to value it? Your kids ain't going to want that because when they get older, those product bags are not going to be of value because they're not. They're not. It's just like all these people that sold their companies are now regretting it because now it ain't that easy for them to go back and build a business and build a brand. It ain't that simple. So the whole point, if you use Diddy, for example, Diddy worked at Uptown to learn how to basically run a record label, which is why he created Bad Boy. That is the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to learn every single bit of the business to be able to create your own. So let's say, for example, McDonald's franchises. All these people that work for McDonald's can actually go and say, you know what? I want to go ahead and do a franchise pay, put $10,000 towards it, and you can basically franchise McDonald's. And everything's already done for you. All you got to do is hire people, put them in there, and that's it. Management, all of that. That's all you got to do. And that's it. Go in there periodically, make sure everything is good. That's it. Take care of your employees. Make sure they're good. And you know what's even more crazier? I don't understand why these CEOs don't think, you know what? Why don't we build a daycare so that way the parents will be able to, put their kids in daycare right next. It doesn't have to be literally next to, where they work at, but literally up the street. So all they gotta do is go pick the kids up. But they won't do that either. They can make healthcare free. They can make daycare free. They can make a lot of things free if they want to. All they gotta do is pass a bill. But nope, they don't want to do that. They want people to struggle. And then not only that, let's not even get on crime. They make money off people being criminals. Y'all just don't understand. They make money off your negativity. They make money off a lot of your negativity. They make money off divorce. They make money off depression. They make money off anxiety. They make money off your health issues. Man, y'all better start paying attention. Y'all better start paying attention to what's going on. And that's what I'm saying. It's in this country, it ain't never about permanent fixes. It's all about temporary fixes. How to temporarily fix something. But it ain't never about a permanent fix. Nope, because if you're permanently healthy and you're basically healing yourself and everything, people gonna want to know, how is it that you never had cancer? How did you heal your chronic pain? How did you, get yourself to where you lost weight? And people gonna want to know how you did it. And you'll be like, well, I just got stuff from outside and started, trying different things. And I started healing my throat because I kept trying to look for answers and none of these doctors would give me answers. These pills weren't helping, and I created my own holistic treatments. But the United States is never going to allow holistic treatment. They're not. It's never going to happen. So that's why you have to go out of the country just to get holistic treatment. There are a lot of people that went out of the country and went to Turkey and went to all these different places and got the best health care and did not have to pay that much. You can go to Turkey and pay $810 and get a whole bunch of tests done. And you can go get your teeth done and everything done. I mean, literally everything done. Everything that you need to do, deep cleanings, all of that, they will do it. All of it for $810. You can even see a neurologist and they can do all your tests, your neurology tests. For 7 days, you're at the hospital. So for 7 days, you're seeing all of these different doctors that's giving you all of these answers. It's just like even in Canada, you can go there and get free healthcare. You can go right up there and get seen and get treatment. And they will thoroughly examine you for free. And give you medication. That's why you have a lot of people, when it comes to their health, will end up staying right where they doctor at. They ain't coming back here. They'll come back long enough to get a visa, long enough to pack their stuff. And while they there, they're going to be looking for a place to stay. And then as soon as they get a place to stay, they come right back home and they gonna pretty much come home and hopefully the doctor will be able to give them a year's worth of medication. But as soon as they realize how hard it is to get that medication, they're gonna be going right back to where they went to the doctor at, and moving right to that country. And they're gonna get a visa, a 6 month visa, and try to get over there to be permanent, try to be a permanent resident, whether it be, having a certain income and becoming a citizen, or they might even end up marrying somebody over there to become a citizen. But either way it go, there are a lot of people that go to different countries and they're healthier, they're happier, because all the stuff that we're getting as far as our foods and all this other stuff, like I said, the recession is more than just a job. It's also the foods we eat. It's all of that. It's everything. Everything is screwed up in this country. And the funny thing about it is the Republicans know that they know it, and they don't even talk about people with disabilities. They ain't doing nothing for people with disabilities, and that's even more worse. So again, do these people really care about our best interests? Nope. Do they care about single mothers and the fact that women right now are struggling and the baby daddies are not doing nothing to help? Are they trying to, make it so these men can make enough money and be able to not only take care of themselves, but be able to take care of their kids? Nope. Are they trying to force these, get these men to be there for their kids? Nope. Not at all. But they ain't trying to do nothing about it. Nothing. Mm-mm. They ain't trying to do absolutely nothing to solve this problem. So again, it's a lot of stuff that's going on. And that's why I said, by knowing all this stuff, that's how you recover. Because when you start seeing things for what they are, you will like, absolutely not. I'm going the opposite direction. I'm going the opposite direction. That's why so many people say that Donald Trump get in office, they leave the United States. They are not coming back. There are people that are leaving the United States in droves. But here's the thing. Now, there's the next video I'm going to talk about. For those of y'all who want to leave the United States, I'm telling you, it ain't that simple as y'all think it is. Because when you go to these other countries, you can't be American. You got to go over there with the whole purpose of learning their culture and learning everything about those places. Go to Bangkok. Can't go over there being American. Now, even though, yeah, they party like us, but you can't go over there saying, okay, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to be American. No, you go over there and be German, because when you get over there, trust me, you don't want to come back, and you're going to be trying to get a citizenship over there. So at the end of the day, So wherever you want to move to, you can start looking for men to date. That way, when you come over there, you're able to, date and then get married and then go over there and become a citizen. It just depends on where you go. But like I said, people need a work-life balance. We don't need to be sitting up here working ourselves to the bone and not having no life and not going nowhere and not being able to be there for our kids, and our kids get out before we even get out of work. And that's what I'm saying. Things need to change. It needs to be where parents can basically, like, for example, the mothers can be able to work from home because they have children. And that would help a lot of mothers, because they can work from home. They ain't got to be in the office. But nope, that's not the case here. So like I said, there you go. So that being said, I think I'm going to end it there. But like I said, I made this podcast because at the end of the day, recovery, when it comes to financial, it can be hard because you got other people that basically control whether or not you're going to survive or not. And so that's different. That's the reason why financial recovery is so hard, because you're depending on other people in order to make income, whether it's a business, whether you work for somebody else, and whether you work for yourself. It doesn't matter. It still ain't going to be that easy, because you got to put that first before you do anything. That's important. So if anything go on, I'll let them know. So all I can say is, like I said, you don't. And when you start facing these realities, that's how you know you recovered, because you see things for what they are. And now you have to figure out how you're going to maneuver in a world full of people that want to keep people in a certain place, and so on and so forth. They don't care about marriage. The only reason they want you to get married is to have kids. If people did not have children and they just were married, that would kill the economy. And that's what they're worried about. Because this younger generation is not having kids like that. And don't get me wrong, there are people having children, but when things start getting extremely bad, they're gonna regret their decision, because kids can't even go outside and play no more. You got kids outside protesting because they can't have their phones while they're in school. That's how bad it is. These kids cannot live without their tablets, their phones, nothing. They can't live without it. So it's bad right now. So like I said, I made this because, like I said, there are other addictions that we don't talk about. We don't. So it's really just about being happy. That's it. So I'm going to get me some rest and go to bed. I'm tired. But that's pretty much it for me. But I just wanted to come on here and just say to y'all, honey, these journeys are not easy. And financial is different because you got other people that determine your livelihood. And that is the one time where other people matter when it comes to your livelihood, whether they buying something from you, whether they selling something to you, or whether you work for them or you work for yourself. But either way it go, those people determine everything. So like I said, I'm getting ready to get some sleep. But like I said, this is where we at. And like I said, it wasn't like this before. And like I said, I'm not a person that's about race. I look at people for their character and their behavior, their actions and decisions. That's what I look at. But at the end of the day, we are in a country that's full of racism. We're in a country that there's diversity, and that's the problem. That's the main problem we got, diversity. And now you're realizing that there are people that are your color eyes and my color eyes and most other people with the same color eyes. It does not mean what you think it is. And then, like I said, you got to realize, once you see things for what they are, honey, you'll start going more towards God's standards. And when you go towards God's standards, God gonna make sure you good. Why? Because you are not trying to be a part of society standards. Like I said, you got other people telling you how to live your life and how to be and how to do things, but yet and still, these same people ain't paying your bills and not doing nothing for you, but they think they have the right to tell you what to do. You got people up here bullying people for whatever the reason may be. So, with that being said, I think that's it for me. I appreciate y'all for joining me for this episode. I'm about to go get me some sleep. Tomorrow is Thursday, and I'm going to enjoy my Thursday. But I just wanted to come on here and do this video on this podcast because, like I said, when you're talking about recovery, when it comes to financial, it's completely different because you got other people that determine your livelihood, and that is completely different. But when it comes to personal, that's a whole different thing. Because personally, when it comes to relationships, you don't have to necessarily depend on people in that aspect. But when it comes to your job and when it comes to going to the store, when it comes to certain things, that's different. But people that's just your friends and family, not necessarily. But I still, speak anyway. So, yeah, that's how that's going. So that being said, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all for this episode. If you want to become a member of my podcast, please go to the actual podcast. If you guys want one-on-one coaching and you want me to pretty much coach you, or you just want to send me a letter, just about something you need advice with or something you need to handle as far as you is concerned. Because at the end of the day, you are an adventure. So It is asha.mariama01@gmail.com. That's asha.mariama01@gmail.com. So I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to have a conversation with you. And I would love to meet you all, because at the end of the day, you always going to have somebody. So like I said, that's just how I feel on that. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And I'm out of here. Good night, y'all. May y'all have a very beautiful Thursday. May peace be with you. Make sure you do your nightly prayers before you go to bed. Make sure you keep your faith, because I'm telling you, your faith right now is being tested. Every single true godly person is being tested. And the question is, how are you going to handle it? That's the question. So that being said, I'll see y'all later. Bye. And then for those of y'all on the actual YouTube channel, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications on my videos. But like I said, we need to have these conversations. We need to have these panels, because if we don't, things will only get worse before they get better. So with that being said, I'm out of here. I'm going to bed. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Right now my neck hurts, so I'm going to get some rest. But just know, I appreciate y'all. Without y'all, there is no me. I'd be nothing without y'all. But I hope this conversation helps you out when it comes to your financials and what you're going to be dealing with. Like I said, we're all individuals, even though they try to put us in groups. We are still all individuals, and we all handle our situations very much differently. So hopefully, it'll be handled accordingly. So with that being said, y'all have a very beautiful night. Welcome to my podcast, and we'll talk later.